So Allah says, Surah Rahman. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. What's the first word? Ar-Rahman. What's that mean? Yeah, obviously the all-merciful. Remember, it's hyperbolic, it's exaggerated. The all-merciful. Now, what's strange about this verse is, how many words is it? One. So when you say the all-merciful, when you'd expect in a verse that it would be a what? A full sentence, wouldn't you? So where's the other part? Where's the other element of the sentence? There's two ways of looking at this. It could there could be ellipsis, i.e. there's something being omitted. This is the all-merciful. And that's a dramatic, and now when you say the all-merciful, it gives that dramatic dun dun dun, like this. Like, do you get the point? So instead of saying this is the all, what we're talking about here is the all-merciful. That's what's understood, but it just whacks it in one. Ar-Rahman, and you hear that, don't you, in the sound? The alif and noon make it dramatic, and that's one version, that's one opinion. And then the next verse, or you could say the next verse is actually part of the same sentence. What's the next verse? Allama al-Qur'an. Now what's allama mean? We haven't done allama, but it's 3 consecutive vowels. So what's that tell us? It's verb in the past third person. Do you know what allama means? Taught. He taught. What did he teach? The Qur'an. So the Qur'an is grammatically is the object, and hence why it's got a fatha on it. Do you see that? So 2 things Allah's bringing our attention to. Ar-Rahman and the Qur'an. Do you see the 2 play on that? They both got alif and noon to say these are interconnected. You can't separate them. Because the Qur'an, what is it? It's the speech of God. It's an attribute of His. So we're talking about Ar-Rahman and that He taught the Qur'an. Now, how we could translate that in 2 ways. This is the All-Merciful. He taught the Qur'an, or the recitation. Remember, Qur'an is a verbal noun, meaning the recitation. Or it could be Ar-Rahman, so the All-Merciful taught the Qur'an. See how you can get 2 different sentences out of that? 2 possible translations. And it's for dramatic effect. Who is this All-Merciful? And that's very important for the context. Because I don't know if you know about this, the Arabs of Mecca, they weren't familiar with this name Ar-Rahman. And so they used to say, oh, Rahman's this guy that's teaching him the Qur'an. They used to try to make these jokes out of it. And then, so they said, we don't even know this Rahman. It must be some guy that's teaching the Qur'an. Oh, we knew he was making it like that. It wasn't his, and so forth. And so Allah's He's basically saying, do you know who this Rahman is? He's the one that, yes, he does. And he says, taught the Qur'an. He went, I knew it. He taught him the Qur'an. But then he's going to he's leading them along. And then he's going to bang. Do you know who he really is? Now, also it doesn't say, you'd expect it to say, the All-Merciful, He taught him the Qur'an, wouldn't you? Yeah? The person who is teaching is not mentioned. Okay? That's a linguistic device in order to say the focus is on the Qur'an here, not him. Because remember, they're saying as if basically it's from him, it's come from him. He says it's not come from him. It's come from the All-Merciful. So the Prophet's been not mentioned to say this is the word of God, not his word. Make sense? So the focus is on God. It's not the focus is not on the Prophet here, because he's saying this is not his speech. It's my speech. Clear? Next verse. Khalaqal insan. What's that mean? He created. Now, is it the man? Is it mankind? Okay, possibilities, isn't it? Okay, so that's where you could get different translations and understandings. And both of them, he created Adam, it could be referring to, or created mankind, no problem. Both are plausible. But it sounds more, the context is more generic here. Because he's saying he taught the Qur'an, and he also, now they're saying, who's this? This is not a man now, because men don't create men. Okay, so he's talking about God, obviously. Notice the focus is on this All-Merciful. What's the greatest mercy? It's the Qur'an. There is like this gift of meaning. Okay, and he also gave, and he gave man because man is about meaning. I always talk about this, is that the most important thing for the human being is having meaning in their life. And how do you know, when do you have true meaning in your life? When you can articulate it. You know, if you've got an idea, you know, you've got a sense of something, but you haven't truly grasped it until you can articulate it, can you? And when you articulate it, it has a magic about it, a power about it. Like when you believe it from your heart and then you articulate it. You know, the best speakers, who are the best speakers? People who really believe what they're talking, you know, your teachers at school, they could teach one subject that they don't really enjoy, and their heart's not in it. You can tell, can't you? And then it's like, oh, they're a completely different teacher with this topic because they have a passion about it. Okay. If I was teaching you the Green Cross Code, you know, I'm not going. You probably think, oh, he's not a very good teacher. He doesn't have much passion about it. But obviously, I like Arabic. I think you can tell I like Arabic and the Quran, so it comes out. So خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ. Notice it's got a fatha on it because it's the object. Next thing. Oh, now we've got an attached pronoun. Do you see that? عَلَّمَهُ الْبَيَانِ. What does that mean? He taught him. Well, bayan. What's bayan? Bayan comes from bayana. Now it is translated as speech, but bayan means to have a group of things together and then start separating them to get clarity. Because speech is what gives you clarity. When you can articulate something, you can make sense of it. Does that make sense? So that's why bayan means speech. It means you've got full clarity. So Allah has taught him the speech, like He's taught him the recitation. He's created man, and He's given the ability to articulate meaning, to understand things. This is the gift that man's got. That's the greatest gift first. Then He's going to. So this is Allah here has focused on the meaning of man here, okay, and what's giving him understanding of his context and why he's here. Now He's going to move to reflection. Now, what does He say next? Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru bihusban. What's that mean? The sun and the moon. Now we don't know this word, do we? We know that there's a preposition there. Do you see the ba? Be, and then what's the word got on at the end of it? Two kasras. Why? It's after a preposition and it's got no al. So it takes two kasras. Husban, we do know a word that comes from this root though. Do you know? Huh? Hisab, we've done that word, haven't we? What's hisab mean? Be a bit more broader, to calculate. So the sun and the moon are by they run by a particular calculation. And notice He's used the alif and noon here to not any calculation, a wondrous. He's used it indefinite to say you can't truly fathom this calculation. And He's used the alif and noon to say it's wondrous as well. So the sun and the moon are, and it's used a noun sentence to say it. What's a noun sentence express? Permanence. It's more emphatic than a verb sentence. Notice the other ones have been verb sentences, haven't they? And then this becomes a noun sentence to say the sun and the moon, they run by a particular calculation that's fixed, doesn't change. And that requires, that sun and the moon, the way they move, requires you to really reflect. Because that tells you when the days are, when the months are, okay, what time of the day it is. And this calculation, if something's been calculated, there must be intelligent design behind it. Okay, it's not just there whimsically. Does that make sense? So now why Allah's moved them from reflecting on God, who they can't truly fathom, to saying, okay, you can't fathom God, and you can't even fathom speech, because speech is incredible if you think about it. They don't know where speech came about. It's a miracle. Some people had this idea that it came from, they used to knock. That sounds like knock. Okay, knock. I knock you. Or something. They don't know how did it come about, suddenly this articulation. And so it's a miracle in itself. But there's one thing you can do. You can reflect on the world around you to understand there's God. And so Allah's shifting it now. Okay, the shams and qamar are by calculation. Does this not make you realise? What's He go next? So what's najm? And the star, literally. Now I know. Look at what Farazan said. Very interesting. She said stars. So she made the al generic, didn't she? Which is fair dues. Okay, and the star. Let's go literal first. And the star and the tree. Yasjudan. Yeah. Now we don't know that this is a present tense. We haven't done present tense yet, but we know sajada, don't we? So this sajada, prostrated. Yasjudu means prostrates. Now, and it's got alif and nun. We haven't studied this yet. This is a dual too. They prostrate. Now there's a debate about what najm means, but I think it does make sense to be in the star because he's great. He's going sun, then moon, then star. Do you notice the brightest, then the next brightest, then that? So he's taking you down, grading you until you get down to what? The tree, which is still above you. You know, when you're looking up, if you can imagine it, there's sun, now then moon, then star, and then you see the trees below the stars. Did you get the point? As if you're looking around. So he's grading you. He's moved from Allah all the way down to reflect on this. Okay, yes, Judan. And this is the verse that we're interested in. The main point now. What's the next bit? وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا. What does that mean? And the sky. What's rafa'ah mean? Three consecutive three consecutive vowels. So it's a verb in the past, third person. What's rafa'a mean? Do you know? To raise up. Rafa'aha. He raised. Now there's no subject here, is there? Mentioned. He raised it. What's it? Which is feminine. No, we're putting it all into play now. It's one of those feminine nouns that doesn't show any sign of femininity. Rafa'aha. And then we're going to stop here because the rest. Now, what's strange here is, look at it. Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru wal-najmu wal-shajaru wal-sama. Oh! What's strange? There's no Dhamma. Whilst all the others had Dhamma. And you would expect a Dhamma. Because as-sama'u rafa'aha. This is what we just studied. Subject, news, which is a verb sentence in itself. Rafa'a, ha, that's the object. So this is the subject, so it should have a Dhamma. But what's it got? Which is really strange. So when the listener hears this, they're expecting Dhammas, Dhammas, Dhammas. Why the fatha here? This is a rule in Arabic. It's a complex rule. It's called ishtighal, where you expect it to be a dhamma, a fatha, and it becomes. Sorry, you expect it to be a dhamma, and in place it puts a fatha, and it can't be the object because that's the object. Even though it refers to the same thing, it can't be grammatically. It can't be the object. Sama. It's a subject of a noun sentence, and rafa is the news. So why has Allah done this? He's done it because, first of all, you expect this coherent order, don't you? Dhamma, 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 and then Sama has a fatha. That grabs your attention. So it's saying, this thing is really got to focus on it. This is really special. And not only that, have you noticed all the others? Najm or Shajr is not a noun sentence, it's a verb sentence. But it's like extra focus here. They're all in it like وَالشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ يَسْجُدَانِ. Okay? So you've got a coherent order. Here it's like backwards the order. It's like it's slightly out of order. So it sort of like shakes you even more. So وَالسَّمَاءُ, all you expect to hear, but it says سَمَاءَ. You said, oh, here, رَفَعَهَا. He meant. Yeah, and this is the point I wanted to mention, sorry, is that Allah's mentioned in this one. Do you notice the others Allah's not mentioned? It says, what does it do first? Ash-shamsu wal-qamar. Is Allah mentioned? Wal-najmu wal-shajru. Is Allah mentioned? Was-sama'. Allah's mentioned. To say, for example, who could raise this up? Okay? So initially you're looking at the things in the sky, aren't you? Grading down as you're looking up. And remember, sama' means what's above you, not necessarily the sky, what's above you. So the trees are not in the sky, but they are above you. So you're like looking down, looking down, looking down. And then you pan out and see the whole thing that's holding it, which is the sky. What's holding all this up? Allah's the one that raised it. How's it staying up? This. Okay. Do you see that linguistical device there? Okay. And there is another narration that has a Dhamma. Okay. Remember, there's variants of the Quran. but this fatha is there to really grab it. Sama, it hits you. Rafa'aha, he raised it. Who could do that but other than God? So you see the linguistic device of that. So that's what I wanted to highlight. Can you translate that? It's very difficult to really convey that meaning. And the way we look at that, we went through these verses today. Is it beyond you? Now you can grasp what's being said, isn't it? And that's exactly the point of this course. It's not that you understand everything. It's that when I'm going through it, you can follow. And you will be having to pick up new things, but it's not beyond you. And you can appreciate what's being said, so you can do away with the translation. You can appreciate the language without the crux of the translation. And because you can't translate that, it's impossible to translate that. But I think you can appreciate what's being conveyed. Yeah? So that's that. So